Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Restricted Republic. My name is Justus, and I can't thank you enough for being here. An absolutely chilling phone conversation I have to share with you today. The phone conversation happening between China's Xi Jinping and Russia's Putin. And in many ways, the unthinkable is admitted. Things that nobody could have expected to hear, indicating there's trouble in China. For those of you back, remember the old movie, Big Trouble in Little China? Well, this is Big Trouble in China. But when there's trouble with China, sometimes that results in threats. That results in demands. That results in admissions of the unthinkable, which we're about to cover when we cover this conversation between two world leaders that could change the very face of everything. Now, before I get there, if you haven't subscribed to me here on this platform, I certainly hope you will. I hope you'll help share the video, and it's truly the best way to grow and spread the word. Also, I don't ask for donations. I provide you uncensored, unfiltered news in a format on Restricted Republic that you have never heard, because it doesn't exist anymore. It's not bound by commercials or advertisers. It's us reporting on what's important to you. Only the important topics. Right now, to experience what that's all about, I'm going to give you 14 days for free, $20 off the annual subscription, simply for joining. You have nothing to lose. Except once you're there, I promise you'll have everything to gain, because you won't be going anywhere else for the news that matters. But now let's move on with this article, and I want to qualify a few things first. When you see these articles, you can't trust necessarily the translations you're given. So I always use two sources to assure what I'm interpreting and reading is accurate. And the interpreter, in this case, G News, which I'll show you here, who did a long article on the interpretation of this phone conversation as being fair and accurate. The reason I utilize G News on this one is because it's a Chinese organization. No one would understand the nuances of communication coming out of China better than them. Maybe the Epoch Times, also coming out of China. From Xi Jinping's phone call with Russian President Putin to the great internal propaganda tactics. We're going to get through this rather quickly, but it's such an important phone conversation, so much occurring within it. Remember when I said I do that double translate? Here's the article cut and pasted into a translator so I can read the actual text to you of the letter and then utilize the translator to further put this into a framework. Understanding the timing of this is a bit unusual. It's not the Chinese New Year, it's our New Year. But phone calls like this happen between world leaders all the time. Nothing too shocking. This happened actually last year when the two world leaders spoke. But this year's tone is significantly different. You'll see on your screen, I'll be going back and forth so you can read along with me. The news agency in Beijing reporting on December 28th, President Xi Jinping had a telephone conversation with Russian President Putin. You notice there, they don't tell you who initiated the call. That's very important normally between world leaders, but in this one, that is bypassed. It just says the two heads of state exchanged New Year's greetings and wished the China and Russia people a happy New Year. So the interpreter now, remember, going back to this article, just so we have our frameworks all built, you'll see this one will be full screen. The actual conversation will be half screen between the Chinese and the English equivalent. But the purpose of the article, the interpretation, is to analyze the Chinese Communist Party's shameless tactics of official articles and prove once again the Chinese Communist Party's evil tactics of manipulating the media, which we have covered so many times over. New York Times also covering it here. Twitter removes Chinese disinformation campaign. This is when they stripped down nearly 24,000 accounts. Propaganda accounts, as they state, and they quote, highly engaged, end quote, in a coordinated effort to spread disinformation. They also took down about 150,000 accounts that were dedicated to boosting Chinese messages by retweeting and liking content. They then go later in this article to reference this study that on Twitter was sourced by these China media manipulators to state that this basically says the origins weren't out of China. Well, the author of the study came out and said that's absolutely not true. That is a Chinese state-run interpretation of the work that I did, and it is false. Just so you understand, in a more direct sense of Chinese propaganda, sometimes they will even, When Twitter catches them, label their accounts, as you see here, China government account, just underlining that for you, and they state, "I can't breathe." Well, they're always trying to incite divide and hatred in America, and they do that by the most shocking images at time. This is how Chinese propaganda works, and it's more prevalent than most believe or understand. They even pay U.S. newspapers, Washington Post included. How that's allowed, nobody will ever understand. That's why Trump is trying to put so many things in place now to break apart any exchange of business with China, which needs to be done. There's no question. Anybody who tries to sell you any bill of goods that a relation between us and China will ever result in anything good is lying to you. Unfortunately, a potential administration, a new potential administration, and the connections with China will be of my utmost concern for many, many years to come, and I will continue to cover it. I will not release off of that. It's imperative to the security of our nation. But let's go back to the interpretation. We can actually skip that. There's something within this that's very auspicious that most don't realize. Xi Jinping to undergo surgery due to a brain aneurysm could have led to the very unusual timing, a very late hour for this phone call to happen, days before the new year. Why was it so imperative to make this call now? You see, when you get into communication between world leaders, nuances are of utmost significance. It's what their interpreters work on. It's not the words. It's the inflections. It's the interpretations. It's the nuances that mean everything. I bet you didn't know that. That one of the biggest world leaders, Russia, China, U.S., it has a severe health problem. Of course not. Because for whatever reason, our media decides not to cover that, which is why I said, again, a matter of national security. But we'll go into the first paragraph. There's only 3, so don't worry. It's not a long communication by any stretch of the imagination. It's only about 1,000 words. Xi Jinping pointed out that the 2020 will be an extraordinary year for China, Russia, and the world. Now remember, a translator doesn't always work. He pointed out that 2020 was an extraordinary year for China, Russia, and the world. The new crown pneumonia pandemic poses an unprecedented challenge to the safety of human life and has a serious impact. And you'll see it here. I'm just going to highlight the paragraph we're reading from quickly. Serious impact on the world economy. The world has entered a period of turbulent change. We're going to stop there for a minute, just that first section. Xi Jinping pointed out that 2020 was an extraordinary year. What does that mean? Xi Jinping pointed out it means he's taking the authority. He's taking the lead in the conversation over Putin. But they make no admission there of where the pandemic came from. That's China's arrogance showing through. They have diverted around this since the very beginning. That new crown pneumonia pandemic. You could see it within the media. Again, just go on a simple search. COVID originated in China, if you believe that. If you don't believe that, it's of no concern. Just watch how the media is interpreting it. Australia insists, the World Health Organization, who sent a paltry few people over to China in a slowed down effort to determine if the origins did come out of the Wuhan wet markets. Well, Australia wants that to be more robust, but immediately after, you see the, again, misinformation campaign. China clamps down in hidden hunt for coronavirus origins from the India Times. China clamps down in hidden hunt for coronavirus origins on the Washington Times. You start to understand now why we can see through the media so easily. They don't even change their wording at times. The message is more important than maybe getting caught because America seems to have their blinders on to any reality. Or as a matter of fact, later on today, I'm going to do another broadcast over at Restricted Republic on the mutant being here or the mutation being here. The information? No one can afford to miss. But I digress. Let's go back to this original article. And it states, one of the most important areas in this communication. Real gold is not afraid of fire. In times of crisis, the unique advantages and valuable value of China-Russia relations have become more prominent. The two sides have watched and helped each other overcome the difficulties together and continue to firmly support each other on issues concerning each other's core interests, reflecting the high level of mutual trust and friendship between the two countries. The two countries actively lead the international anti-epidemic cooperation, smoothly promote the joint construction of the Belt and Road and Eurasian Economic Union, and jointly celebrate the victory of the World Anti-Fascist War, 75th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations, in the G20, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're going to skip all that because the last sentence had become the mainstay of maintaining international fairness and justice and practicing multilateralism. Well, that goes into a bigger interpretation. What is that? Real gold is not afraid of fire. Well, the entire paragraph told you what that meant. The CCP appears to be under a great deal of pressure and is trying to convince Russia to stand united with them. What could ensue from this may be your question. Why is Xi Jinping asking for such a level of cooperation? Has he truly been hobbled in some ways? Of course, again, I'm going to show you in a second, the media doesn't report on that. Russia to stand, again, alongside the CCP in this time of crisis and help each other overcome all the difficulties. But the CCP won't directly say that, of course. A level of pride or arrogance that would never admit anything or needing help. But you're trying to deal with Putin, who doesn't fall for much trickery. Even the interpretation says that the kind of trickery will not kidnap Russia, but only confuse and brainwash ordinary people because they think the pandemic is transmitted from abroad to China, though what they mean there is to people in China believe that because that's what their state-run media has told them. They also reference this Belt and Road Initiative we've covered multiple times. I'm not going to go into detail there. Just understand that level of cooperation between China and Russia is so important they have their own news source for it. China and Russia willing to further boost strategic cooperation. Going down in the article, Russia congratulates China on its great achievements in fighting the pandemic and is willing to maintain high-level exchanges with China, ensure the success of Russia-China's year of scientific and technological innovation, and promote the practical cooperation between the two countries in various fields to continuously achieve new results. The practical cooperation, the key line within that. We're about to circle back onto why that is imperative. But it's these two paragraphs here which show that authoritative content again. It states Xi Jinping emphasizes, key words here, that the concept of generational friendship and principle of new international relations established in the Sino-Russia Treaty of Good Neighborliness, Friendship, and Cooperation is a major innovation in the history of international relations, and its strong vitality and demonstration effect will continue to appear in the current international situation. International, global, over and over and over. It's like a battering ram. The two sides should take the opportunity of celebrating the 20th anniversary of the signing of the treaty next year as an opportunity to advance bilateral cooperation on a larger scale, broader field, and deeper level. China is actively constructing a new development pattern and promoting reform and opening up for a higher starting point, which will provide broader development opportunities for China-Russia cooperation. Very key statement there. If you stand side by side with us, the benefits to you will be felt for decades to come. Putin, we need your help. If you'll just stand with us, help us through this time of crisis that we really don't want to admit is a crisis. Oh, the benefits we will provide you will be endless. Remind you of some Bible stories, doesn't it? The two sides should strengthen the alignment of development strategies, expand new forms of cooperation, and drive new driving forces, continuing to successfully hold the China-Russia Year of Science and Technology Innovation. Oh, there it comes up again, doesn't it? And promote all-round exchanges and cooperation between the scientific and technological communities and industries of the two countries to better promote the high-quality economic development of the two countries. Xi Jinping emphasizes again about these relations, that they have strong power and independent value, which are not affected by changes in the international situation and are not affected by any other factors. Don't get in bed with anyone else but us. You and me together through this, arm in arm. The strengthening of strategic cooperation between China and Russia can effectively resist any attempts to suppress and divide the two countries and build a solid barrier to safeguard international fairness and justice. China is willing to work with Russia to unswervingly develop a comprehensive strategic partnership of cooperation between the two nations in the new era, realizing the development and rejuvenation of their respective countries and make greater contributions to build a new type of international relations and a community with a shared future for mankind. That gets a little creepy, doesn't it? The next two paragraphs that we just read down. Xi Jinping stressed and Xi Jinping said, which shows Xi Jinping's words carry far more weight than Putin's. I told you, it's all in the interpretation, the inflection. The China-Russia Treaty on Good Neighborliness, Friendship, and Cooperation is a condition, Xi threw at Putin, the content of which is official language translated into one sentence, which means that if you stand on my side, and tide over the immediate crisis, I will guarantee you the benefits of the Chinese people for generations to come. This is a more desperate tone, in my opinion, from China than we've heard before. It indicates something is amiss, something is wrong, but still needs to be translated into a different vernacular to be understood. This way is authoritative for the common people of China, that they know would read this, the greatness of the party, while the words are nasty and dirty things. After the first emphasis, they do it again. He didn't rest assured on that. He needed to say it a second time. This new dynamic, independent value, what's meant by this? Well, it means that Russia should keep its eyes and ears closed and develop only with China, exclusively with China. Well, now the desperation turns to a threat. A very veiled threat, but a threat nonetheless. New types of international relations and community of human destiny means global domination, and the fruit is shared with Russia and is guaranteed to be effective and firm. China and Russia will strengthen their strategic cooperation, which will effectively resist any attempts to suppress and divide the two countries and will build a solid barrier for maintaining international fairness and building that unity between the two nations. Is this a call to prepare for war? Is this a call to prepare for economic destruction? Is this a call for unity to assure that these two nations rise up against all others, now hobbled by this pandemic? They point out in their very communication, taking no level of guilt or responsibility for what's occurred. Now that you've seen the ins and outs of this, you'll understand the closing paragraph. Putin said that despite the impact of the new crown pneumonia epidemic this year, Russia-China relations have developed steadily. The two sides supported each other in the fight against the epidemic and cooperation in various fields, such as economy, trade, energy, technology, continues to advance. Next year, the two sides will jointly celebrate the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Russia-China Treaty of Good Neighborliness, Friendship, and Cooperation, which is an important milestone in the history of Russia-China relations. But now here's where we do a little bypass. It says the Russia side is willing to work with the Russian side to develop a new era of China-Russia comprehensive strategic cooperative partnership to achieve the development and revitalization of their respective countries and to make great contributions to build a new type of international relations. Here again, to translate, that new type of international relations and a community of human destiny means global domination. I don't want you to forget that. How important that is, because it's this sentence down here where everything fails. Russia is willing to work with China to continue to firmly support each other on issues involving each other's core interest, to intensify strategic coordination and cooperation in international affairs, and contribute to maintaining global strategic stability. To contribute, the interpretation now, to maintenance of global strategic stability, meaning Xi Jinping held high, was Putin's gentle put-down. Stability, not hegemony, is a refusal. Talking about interests is fine, but fighting for your life is not. Putin realizing this was a veiled threat. He's never taken kindly to veiled threats in any way, shape, or form. So if you read the last line, the two heads of state agree to continue to maintain regular communication. That means this isn't done. Putin's now registered the threat of the Chinese leader. This threat coming from what? Well, again, the mainstream media does a horrible job of exactly explaining how much trouble China's in. Everything seems, depending on whose interpretation you read, either to backfire on them or just simply imploded. China's economy is in deep, deep trouble. China appears to be hobbled by the very virus that so many feel originated from their very borders. But if you read something different, and just to close off on how the propaganda arm works, you read down in these, China to overtake U.S. as largest global economy by 2028. China to leapfrog U.S. as biggest economy by 2028. China to leapfrog U.S. as world's biggest economy by 2028. Channel News Asia and Newsmax. China will overtake U.S. as world's top economy in 2020. Should we just keep reading the same title over and over and over again until America understands that you are reading on state-run media is state-run messages? We are no different than other countries any longer when it comes to freedom of press. We now read state-run and state-fed messaging bought and paid for by powers that most have trouble understanding. You do not. That's why you're here. So this communication between two of the most significant world leaders outside of the U.S. shows a desperate and veiled attempt to threat. Join with us together, without a real reason as to why they need that, except for the desire for global domination, which fits really conveniently into everything that's occurred during this great reset of so much of the world. Well, in reality, all of the world. Now, what we have to fear is not fear itself. What we have to fear is the very basis of why this is all happening now. Why he made this chilling call to Putin, or why Putin made this chilling call to him, because we simply don't know that. By admitting the unthinkable, that the very pandemic that stemmed from their borders is crippling them. And out of desperation comes some really scary events. The world has been put on notice by this phone call. So until next time, if you haven't, again, subscribe to me here on this platform. I certainly hope you will. I wish I had better news for you. And I actually received a comment yesterday that, why don't you put a positive spin on it? Well, folks, there's no positive spin on some of this news. Now, when the news is this rough, and if you're looking for fluff, this isn't the right place to be. No, we give you substance. We give you facts. We give you things that nobody else will cover. And if you want to go even further, go to restrictedrepublic.com. Sign up there and you'll see the facts that hit you right between the eyes. The ones that can't be spoken anywhere else. Those words that aren't meant to be said anymore, or not allowed to be said. Well, we speak them out loud for everyone to hear. Get over there now. 14 days free. $20 off the annual subscription. Use 20 off discount code at checkout. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.